Hi, I'm Michael Sinoff, founder and CEO of HardToFindSeminars.com. For the last 5 years, I've interviewed the world's best business and marketing minds. Now my challenge is to build the world's largest free resource for online, downloadable audio business interviews. I've learned a lot in the last 5 years, and today I'm going to show you the skills you need to survive. Hi, this is Michael Sinoff with Michael Sinoff's HardToFindSeminars.com. I just got finished doing a 50-minute fascinating interview with a gentleman named Dr. John Demartini. I'm going to call him Dr. John for short. Dr. John is a world-leading inspirational speaker. He's the author at the forefront of a burgeoning personal and professional development industry. This guy's read more than 28,000 texts in over 200 different disciplines, ranging from psychology, philosophy, metaphysics, theology, neurology, and physiology. He was born in Houston, Texas. He was one of 2 children. At the age of 7, he was told he had a learning disability and would never read or write or communicate. At 14, he was a high school dropout living on the streets and panhandling for food in California. After a near-death experience at 17, it changed his life. He had been given a second chance, and he made the decision to dedicate his life to becoming a teacher, a healer, and a philosopher. If you've ever seen the famous movie The Secret, you'll see him featured in that. You'll hear about how this came about in the interview. Today, Dr. D speaks 300 days a year in over 50 countries across the globe. He's the author of over 40 books. Some of his best-selling titles include The Breakthrough Experience, A Revolutionary New Approach to Personal Transformation, Count Your Blessings, and How to Make One Hell of a Profit and Still Get to Heaven. Recently, Dr. D has captured the attention of celebrities, international sports personalities, noted professionals, UN representatives as a result of his self-help methodology he developed and coined the Demartini Method. He puts on seminars and trainings, over 60 different ones all over the world. It's derived from a study of quantum physics. The Demartini Method is being studied in a number of universities and presented to psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, health professionals, and even prison workers all over the world. Dr. D has shared the stage with such famous people as Stephen Covey, Donald Beck, Mark Victor Hansen, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Patch Adams. He's also been a welcome guest on over 1,200 radio and television talk shows, including CNN, Larry King Live, CBS's Early Show, PBS, Dennis Foley, CNBC's Alive and Wellness, Mornings with Carrie Ann, Good Morning Australia, and Voice of America. He has homes scattered across the world, but uniquely, he lives aboard a luxury cruise liner called The World. It's the only resort community in the world that continually circumvents and travels the globe. This allows him to do speaking engagements all over the world. I bombarded him with as many questions as I could about his marketing business, about speaking to tens of thousands of people, about his affiliation with The Secret, about his beliefs, purpose, and goals, and just about what he's been doing lately. I think you're going to find it fascinating. We cover a lot of different topics, and I hope you enjoy. Let's get going. Nice meeting you. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. And I understand when you were 7, you were diagnosed with a learning disability?
Well, I don't know if it's about a diagnosis, but I guess it's called that. I had a first-grade teacher that had me in regular reading class, and then in a matter of a week or so, she said, well, you need to go to a remedial reading class. And then about a week later, she said, no, you're in a dunce class. So she called my parents in and said, look, he's got problems reading. He'll never be able to read, write, or communicate, never amount to anything, never go very far in life. So that was the starting point when I was 7. And I made it through elementary school with the help of the smartest kids in the class who I befriended, and learned how to ask questions from them to get through school.
Okay. And what did your mom and dad do?
Well, this is 1950, so in those days, they really didn't have much to do. The teacher had some sort of authority. There wasn't a lot of systems and support groups around that area, and they just assumed that was true. And she suggested I go into sports, so I started going into sports and excelling in that area, and just tried to make it through school somehow and excelling in sports. That's what the pathway was. And because I asked the smartest kids in the class what they got from everything, I was able to make it through elementary school until I turned 12 to 13, and that's when my parents moved to a different town and started a different school. That's when all of a sudden it was evident that I was relying on those kids that were smart, because when they were gone, I started failing everything.
Do you think it was a natural instinct that you learned to ask questions?
Well, that was a survival mechanism. Well, there was actually a girl named Martha Rose Cartozzi who was a very attractive girl when I was in first grade, who I didn't mind asking questions to her because she was the brightest girl. I learned from her doing that, and then I started hanging out with some of the smartest kids, Clinton Duvall and Jerry Sampson and a few others, and they helped me get through school.
What happened at 14? You dropped out of school?
I dropped out of school, and my goal was to go surfing in California and Hawaii, and so my parents gave me a ride to the freeway with a notarized piece of paper saying he's not a runaway, he's a boy with a dream, and off I went.
Where'd you go? What part of California?
I first went to Huntington Beach, California. Well, I came in 10 into L.A. and then down the coast towards Huntington Beach, and I fell in love with Huntington Beach. That was the surf capital at the time.
What do you think influenced you? Because I'm from Atlanta originally, and I had that California dream, and I have to look back on listening to the Beach Boys and seeing the skateboarding and roller skating on the boardwalk. Those were some of the visions that really drove me to come out here when I think about it. What about you? What influenced you to get you out here?
Well, Surfer Magazine, I think, and seeing the hot chicks with the bikinis, I think that motivated me to come to California. There was pictures all up and down the beach of long-haired hippie surfer guys with lots of chicks and surfing, so that was a cool thing for me at the time.
I mean, were you able to support yourself at that age? Were you living?
I had $13 when I was dropped off on the highway there, and then my dad said always keep at least $13, and I had a little job when I was 9 learning how to make money, and so he said, you're on your own, go for it. And so I panhandled, and I bummed and begged and went into diners and got food off tables and lived in communes and did whatever teenagers did in those days. Huntington Beach, I learned how to panhandle and make good money on the beach, so I made enough to survive there until I had enough money to go to Hawaii.
So panhandling, that's when you're just asking for money?
Yeah, you're just asking for money, and there's girls up and down the beach, so you'd ask them for a quarter or whatever, and you collect those things and have to turn the coins into dollars because it jingled too much. From 14 to 16, I was in California mainly, and then I also went to Mexico and a few places, hitchhiking and surfing. Then I went on to eventually Hawaii, and I remember the first day I got there, I slept under the Sunset Bridge on the North Shore, and then I kind of social climbed to lived at Iikai Beach Park under the park bench, and then finally in the bathroom showers where the water wouldn't do it if it rained. And then finally I got me a rusty old beat-up car that we got to crash out in, and then from there I got me a tent, and then I kept social climbing until I finally hung out in a tent in the jungle in the beach area.
Were you doing any drugs?
Well, I was trying to expand my mind through natural means in those days, so it was herbs and mushrooms and all the things that were essential in those days. I ended up eventually getting strychnine on the North Shore. That's where I got my strychnine poisoning.
How did that happen?
There are some plants that grew on the beach there that had toxic strychnine in it, and I almost died of that. That's when I ended up being led to meet Paul Bragg. I went to a little class at a yoga class because I had the strychnine poisoning. It caused damage to my neuromuscular system, and somebody told me to go to a yoga class. So I went to the yoga class. I met Paul Bragg, who was a 93-year-old inspiring man who was lecturing on the power of the mind and body and spirit and healing and how we can maximize our life. And that night is the turning point. That's when I decided that night I wanted to do what I'm doing today.
Was this guy renowned, Paul Bragg?
Yeah, he was the one that started American health food stores. He worked with the celebrities. He had TV shows. He was an amazing guy.
Were you able to overcome the physical limitations as a result from the strychnine using?
I started doing what he said. I started eating better. I started meditating. I started fasting. I started setting goals. My life changed that night. It took me about 12 years to have all symptoms of strychnine gone.
So what is Dr. Demartini's mission and purpose today?
Well, I'm just dedicated to studying the laws of the universe and sharing them. I'm a researcher, writer, traveler, and speaker. I do everything I can to try to help people maximize their potential and live their life absolutely amazingly and live an inspired life. I feel like I get to do that, so I try to help other people do the same.
Hi, it's Michael Senoff with HardToFindSeminars.com. Thanks for watching this video. Many of my interviews last 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, sometimes even up to 2.5 hours long. They're actual mini seminars, and you've just listened to a short sample of just one of over 117 hours of exciting, hard-hitting, mind-blowing interviews on how to make money in direct mail, advertising, copywriting. I assure you, there is not a resource anywhere on the internet or on the planet that comes close to the free information I provide at HardToFindSeminars.com. So go right now to HardToFindSeminars.com, and you'll have free access to 117 hours of audio interviews with typed word-for-word downloadable transcripts and downloadable MP3 files. Please browse some more of the videos or go right directly to HardToFindSeminars.com. Thanks for watching.